Don't worry, I'm not a trained professional. I have no idea what I'm doing. Yo, what's grr? Welcome back to another gatorSTUDIOS video. So today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I think people are TMNT fans rather, or at least some are a little bit concerned about. I thought about it and I was like, yo, that's crazy. And that's whether or not TMNT as a franchise is getting too hip, right? I was out to eat with my family the other day, and I was talking to my brother, and I was saying, hey, you know, I'm excited for Mutant Mayhem because, let's be honest, that's all I talk about. I was like, yo, I'm excited for Mutant Mayhem, and blah blah blah. And he was like, yeah, it looks cool and all, but it looks a little bit too hip, you know? And it made me think, I'm like, I feel like there's some fans out there, especially like the OG fans, that have that same concern. And I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to really break down, is TMNT getting too hip or not? So let's talk about it. I'm about to guzzle this guzzler, no pause. Oh! Alright, so I really want to pay attention to the teenage fact in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, okay? So, let's start off with the 80s show, right? The 80s show takes place in the 80s. The newest show, Rise of the TMNT, whatever year it came out, like 2020, 2021, something like that, around that time, which is obviously more modern, more hip, right? Now, when I hear people say that they're concerned about TMNT being too hip, it's typically targeted towards Rise and Mutant Mayhem. And in Mutant Mayhem, they said, literally in the trailer, they said that it's like 2023 or something. They said that with their own words. So they know what year it is, right? So my point is, if you're looking at the fact that they are teens, right? Which is you growing up, going from a child to an adult, right? As a teen, you're very impressionable. The world around you is very impressionable, right? Okay. Now, if we're taking the times, let's look at the 80s Turtles. They're over there saying totally tubular and cowabunga and all that, right? All that gnarly. That's some 80s lingo, right? That's some 80s lingo. Now you take the newer Turtles. They're doing more modern, more hip things, right? That teens, modern day, would associate with more. And like me personally, even though my favorite show is the 2003 show, I grew up mainly with the 2012 one, right? The stuff they did in that show was more the stuff that I grew up doing, the more stuff that I relate to just on every day, right? At the end of the day, when you take comics like the IDW comics, ones that I'm not really sure what the specific targeted audience is, but I know it's not just kids, right? It's a darker story. They're not as focused on the teenage part, and they don't really play into that. All the TMNT comics that are along the darker side, they don't really play much into the teenage part, which I personally don't mind. I know a lot of people have a thing about that. I personally don't mind. But you take that, okay, whatever. So you see the IDW comics, they're not hip because they just don't really focus on the whole teenage part, right? So if the IDW comics mainly focus on a more adult or all audience, so they don't really focus on that aspect, the cartoons, which are made specifically for a younger audience, is going to focus on that aspect, right? You see what I'm saying, right? Now, like I said, for the time, the 80s show was more relatable for kids of that time. Rise of the TMNT is more relatable for the kids of this time. You see what I'm saying? So my point to this story that I'm making basically is the answer to whether or not they're too hip modern day is yes and no. It's really up for you to decide, because if you look at it, right, of course Mutant Mayhem is going to be more hip and more modern to the times because that's what we're in, and it's focusing on the audience that they're going to have, right? If realistically, if you're making a movie, a new TMNT movie that's targeted towards kids, why would you make it more 80s-esque? You know what I mean? The 80s kids might be hype about it, but the majority of people that grew up watching the Turtles, one, probably don't even watch them anymore. And the couple diehard fans that there are, that's not enough to, you know, sell a whole movie, right? So it boils down to the Turtles just change with time. And of course, there's always going to be the versions like IDW that don't really change much. It's just the Turtles. There's always that base. There's always that base. I'd argue like the IDW the IDW comics, it's like a base of what the Turtles are, relatively speaking. And some things are gonna vary from that. That's fine. Plus, you know, they want to do different things. They don't want to make everything the same. You see in Mutant Mayhem, Shredder's not the villain. They're trying to make things new, hip. My brother also said that he feels like Ice Cube playing the villain, it seems too hip. Me personally, I think it's cool. And also, I think it kind of makes sense. The Turtles have always been like a little like street-esque, I want to say. Like, they listen to rap. They listen to rap. They really be vibing like that. So I feel like it kind of makes sense. I feel like it mixes with their personalities a little bit. That's just me personally, though. I feel like it makes sense if somebody would think it doesn't make sense. But yeah, it really boils down to whether or not how you feel about it. Because the more and more the Turtles go on, each installment, they're just gonna relate more to the year that they're in, unless it's something like, for example, the Last Ronin game that's coming out, which is focused around like I said, that base of IDW comics, around like that. Unless it's something that's like that, and it's not a whole new story with the times, the Turtles are forever going to change, most likely. That's probably how it's gonna be forever. So realistically, it's, some people aren't gonna like it, some people are gonna like it, but that's how it is, and it's really not gonna change. Me personally, I do prefer the more classic Turtles, and I won't lie to you, the hip stuff, me saying this doesn't mean I necessarily love it. I find some of the stuff heavily cringe. I think Rise of the TMNT has some peak cringe, and the whole thing about Donnie liking K-pop and Mutant Mayhem, it makes me want to die a little bit. It's so cringe, it hurts so bad, but like I said, that's just the times. That's how life is going on, and it's going to continue to be like that with each installment that goes on. It's only, if you have this mindset, it's only going to get worse for you as it goes on. So that's basically the point. It's a yes or no. Either you feel like, okay, we're moving on, or you're just stuck in your ways, which being stuck in your ways is fine. I mean, I'm a little bit stuck in my ways too. I like everything TMNT that comes out. I compare it to the 2003 show because it's my favorite show. I'm like, alright, whatever. But yes, you get the point. You get the point. And another thing, with people saying the Turtles are too hip, with April in Rise of the TMNT and Mutant Mayhem being black, listen, I'm gonna say this again. She was black before she was white. You heard? Because I keep saying this, and I'll say this over and over and over again. For me personally, and I feel like this really just goes with anybody, race swapping a character, which in this case they really didn't even race swap, it doesn't bother me. It only bothers me if you're race swapping a character to where their race actually means something. Like if you made Black Panther white, okay, that's a little weird. That's a little odd, I won't lie. If it changes the character, then yeah, I see the problem, right? But if it doesn't change the character, there's not really much problem. And April works fine any race. And on top of that, like I said, she was literally black before she was white. They legit changed April to white because they thought it would be more relatable for the times, which, like I said, the times, it's all about the times, how things are. There was a moment where they thought April being white was more relatable, and now there's a moment where they think April being black is more relatable. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's April, the character, O'Neil. Okay? Listen, man. It's April O'Neil. Just be happy we got April. So that concludes the video. I'm hoping this video gets out there a little bit to TMNT fans, I guess, because I feel like there's a lot of people who think that TMNT is trying to be too hip or whatever, and I just kind of want to shed some light on it. I want to say what I'm thinking in my brain because it is what it is, you know? Like, we're just moving on in life. So, anyways, I appreciate you watching. And shake. And until next time, first of all, drink some Guzzler. And until next, not sponsored. And until next time, peace.